YouTube? It's your boy Lane, man, and I'm back here with another reaction video. Sliming right now. I'm about to react to Charles Manson, and this one's called The Cult of the Mansion. The Manson Family. I said mansion. Anyway, y'all know it's the, you know what I mean? But Charles Manson, they're like, ever since I've started doing like my forensic file reactions and like my murder case videos and like stuff like that, a lot of y'all been hitting me to do this, you feel me? Because a lot of y'all was like, bro, you gotta know about the story of bro, you feel me? Like, bro, like a lot of y'all was like, bro, let the cult, like a cult, like, I don't really know, you feel me? Like, honestly, I thought I had did a video on bro before, but I went back and like, I don't think I didn't see one. So I was like, I'm gonna do it, you feel me? And while y'all was saying in the comments, like, bro was a sick human being, like, you know what I mean? And bro, you know what I mean? Bro is just weird. So we about to see, like, what y'all talking about in the comments, you feel me? A lot of y'all sent me this video, you feel me? Y'all was like, this is gonna explain the whole story of bro, you feel me? And you're just gonna be like, you know what I mean? So we're about to see what y'all talking about in the comments, you feel me? And if y'all new over here, make sure to check out my whole playlist of, like, I got a whole playlist of my forensic file reactions or like my murder case videos that I've done, you feel me? Also, I got the music reactions over here, I got funny reactions over here, like I got story times, I got it all over here. So tap in with those if you haven't seen those yet either, you feel me? Like after this one though, you feel me? But we about to see what y'all talking about in the comments, you feel me? And y'all know with these like forensic file videos, like these murder case videos, like we about to chill for the next like 20-25 minutes, you know what I mean? So we about to see what happened, you know what I mean? So make sure you get your favorite drink, snack, whatever, because we about to see like why bro even, you know what I mean? Let's get into it, Slime. Let's go. Let's get it.
He is the epitome of pure, unadulterated evil, the mastermind guru with the swastika on his forehead and the wild, crazed look in his eyes. He is responsible for one of the most heinous crimes of our time, controlling his minions like a puppeteer. In this week's Biographics, we're looking into the dark and...
Bro looks off, bro. Look at the, like, did you see that picture with it? Oh, bro, you look weird, you know what I mean?
disturbing story of Charles Manson. Charles Mills Manson was born on November the 12th, 1934, to 16-year-old Kathleen Maddox and a 24-year-old transient laborer known only as Colonel Scott. Kathleen was a promiscuous teenager who drank too much and earned money to fuel her habits by selling her body. The baby was known as No Name Maddox for the first few weeks of life until his mother seemed to settle on Charlie. He never knew his father. He cleared out as soon as he heard that Kathleen was pregnant. Kathleen was too young, too immature and unpredictable to provide a stable environment for a young child. She appeared to have no maternal instincts and would leave the child to fend for himself while she went off on one of her benders. As an adult, Charlie often related that his mother was once in a cafe with him on her knee when the waitress offered to buy the baby from her. Kathleen's asking price was a pitcher of beer, and having consumed it, she simply walked out and left Charlie to the woman. According to Charlie, his uncle took 4 days.
Wow, bro, your mom, bro, your mom, she did, man. No wonder why your parents were off, but still, bro, like, you could have been better than this, like, you know what I mean? Cause, bro, I didn't have a, you know what I mean? I ain't have that at all. Just watch my story times, you'll know my story, you know what I mean? It's fucked up. You know what I mean? But I didn't let that define me, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But you should never, bro. That's why I tell people, bro, if you have kids, bro, you gotta just you gotta man up or woman up, and, you know, cause like, you don't want your kid to turn out and be like, you know what I mean? Or just be off, bro. Or not to feel the same love, cause that's, you know what I mean? For real. That's why I got certain problems. That's why I can't trust or let her. Because I never got that in my life. You know what I mean? But for real, bro. Like, bro, look, bro's mom was off, and that is like it transferred into him. Like, it's weird. That's weird. That's crazy, bro. But you should never do that to your kid. That's what I'm saying. If you ever got kids, bro, you playing that, don't be a parent, bro. Be there. You know what I mean? Straight up.
To track him down and return him home. When Charlie was 6 years old, his mother and uncle decided to rob a gas station. They were both caught, convicted, and sent for 5 years to Moundsville State Prison. The boy was put into the care of his strictly religious grandparents, but after a few months he went to live with his aunt and uncle in West Virginia. The environment was very different to anything Charlie had previously known. His aunt, unlike his sister, was regimented and disciplined. She was also strictly religious. Her husband, Bill, was even more fervent in his faith than his wife. A strict disciplinarian, he considered Charlie to be a sissy. On the first day of school, he sent the boy to class in a dress in order to teach him how to fight. Charlie soon adapted to this very different kind of life and actually grew to enjoy his new regimented routine. The 2 years between 6 and 8 would prove to be some of the most stable of his young life. But then his mother was released from prison and immediately took him back. Kathleen was more unstable than ever. She preferred a life of promiscuity and alcohol abuse to maternal domesticity. Constantly in trouble with the law and with no money for food and board, they constantly moved around the Midwest. At the age of 9, Charlie dropped out of school. The transient life that he was forced to live shaped the type of boy that Charlie would become. He kept to himself, living his life through his imagination. He was constantly watching, taking things in, and dreaming of a future free of his no-hope mother. He also learned how to become a very accomplished thief. At age 9, Charlie was caught stealing and sent to reform school. 3 years later, he was caught again. This time, he was packed off to the Gibault School for Boys in Indiana. Before he was taken away, Kathleen promised to visit him often. Of course, though, she never did. Just 10 months into his incarceration, Charlie escaped. He robbed a grocery store to get some money, and when that ran out, he stole other things, including a bicycle. He got caught in the act of making off with the bike and soon found himself back in confinement. This time, he was sent to Indiana Juvenile Center, but after just 2 days, he stole some cutters and freed not only himself, but 30 other boys. This time the escaped young felon stole not a bike, but rather a car. But the 13-year-old could hardly see over the steering wheel and was apprehended within hours of his escape. When he ended up in juvenile court, he was surprised to see his mother. His spirits were dashed, however, when she testified that she would not take him in. The somewhat sympathetic judge sent Charlie to Father Flanagan's Boys Town, but the stay here, it was almost as short as his last incarceration. After just 4 days, he ran off with another young offender, Blackie Nelson. They stole a car, which they subsequently crashed. Still, they made their way to the home of Blackie's uncle, a World War II veteran and an underworld figure who gave the young hoodlums free board and food in exchange for the proceeds from armed robberies that he had them commit. During their third robbery, the two boys were caught. This time, Charlie was sent to the Indiana School for Boys in Plainfield. Here, he stayed for 3 years. Charlie would later claim that his small stature led him to being constantly raped and sodomized by other inmates, as well as by the school employees. He also recalled that he was constantly picked on by the guards, who would continually find fault with him, beating him with leather straps and wooden clubs. One night after being gang raped by a group of older boys, he beat one of his attackers to just short of the point of death with an iron bar as the boy lay sleeping. Charlie then placed the iron bar under the bed of one of the other attackers, successfully implicating him in the attack. Charlie was exhibiting a trait that would characterize his personality as an adult. This was that he would hold his anger in for a time, only for it to explode later in an orgy of violence. Over the 3 years he spent at Plainfield, Charlie escaped no less than 18 times. He was returned every time, though, and in March of 1951, his sentence was increased and he was sent to a minimum security institution. This was the National Training School for Boys in Washington, D.C. Here, things were very different to what Charlie had known at Plainfield. The facility was well run, the boys were treated well, and a genuine focus was placed on rehabilitation. Charlie liked it there, but he had no interest in being rehabilitated. He'd do his time, but then he'd get back out to the life of crime that he knew was waiting for him. At around the age of 15, Charlie was given a psychiatric assessment. He was found to be aggressive, antisocial, and illiterate. A caseworker reported that the boy was severely emotionally traumatized and in serious need of psychiatric treatment. It was also noted that he had a higher than normal aptitude for music. On October the 24th, 1951, Charlie was transferred to the National Bridge Honor Camp in Petersburg, Virginia. 3 months later, just weeks before his parole hearing, he sodomized another inmate while holding a razor blade to his neck. He was reclassified as extremely dangerous and transferred to a tougher, high-security facility, the Federal Reformatory at Petersburg, Virginia. After 7 months at the federal reformatory, Charlie had racked up 8 major violations. He was classified as defiantly homosexual, dangerous, and safe only under supervision, with assaultive tendencies. Towards the end of 1952, he was sent to a higher security facility still. There, to the surprise of everybody, he transformed into a model prisoner. He took lessons in reading and math and began working in the vehicle maintenance department. On January the 1st, 1954, he was given a Meritorious Service Award for his scholastic achievements. His application to his studies and his apparent change of attitude led to Charlie being paroled on May the 8th, 1954. He was put in the care of his aunt and uncle, but within a month, the now 19-year-old was back living with his mother, herself recently released from prison. Six months after his release, Charlie married a waitress by the name of Rosalie Jean Willis. Shortly thereafter, a son, Charles Manson Jr., was born. Charlie worked at a low-income job, augmenting his pay by stealing cars. He used one of those stolen cars to move his wife and baby to Los Angeles. The car had been taken from Ohio, and authorities were able to track it down. Charlie was charged with a federal crime for taking the car across state lines. He was given 5 years probation, but when he failed to show up to a subsequent hearing, he was arrested. With his probation revoked, Charlie was sent for 3 years to the prison on Terminal Island in San Pedro, California. After being there a few months, he was informed that his wife was living with another man. 2 years later, she obtained a decree of divorce. In September of 1958, Charlie was released on 5 years of parole. He was now extending his criminal earning potential by becoming a pimp. He had a 16-year-old girl working for him. Over the next year, he roamed around California and New Mexico, committing crimes and repeatedly coming across the law. In June of 1960, he fled.
So bro was just wild, bro. Like all his life, like he was wild and off. Like, and then it's like they kept giving him chances too. Like it's like, bro, like how does he keep getting? You know what I mean? And it's just that's crazy.
To Texas with a California warrant out for his arrest. When one of his girls was arrested there for prostitution, he was picked up and returned to Los Angeles to face a 10-year sentence for cashing a forged treasury check. At the age of 26, he was sent to the U.S. penitentiary at McNeil Island, Washington. While serving his sentence, he learned to play the guitar and became interested in Scientology. During his time at McNeil Island, he also became obsessed with the Beatles. Charlie had an inflated appreciation of his own musical talent, claiming that he would, with the right backing and training, be even bigger than the Beatles. Charlie became friends with an inmate by the name of Alvin Karpis. This former Public Enemy #1 was a former member of the infamous Matt Barker gang. He taught Charlie how to play the steel guitar. This further fueled his musical obsession, and in 1966, Charlie's prison record noted that he spent most of his free time writing songs, accumulating 80 or 90 of them in a single year. Karpis later commented on the Charlie that he knew at that time. He recalled that Manson was a master manipulator of other people. Prison authorities also noted that he had a tremendous drive to call attention to himself. In June of 1966, Charlie was sent once again to Terminal Island, this time in preparation for early release. When the day arrived, on March the 21st, 1967, he had spent more than half of his 32 years behind bars. He requested that the authorities let him stay in jail, but he was told that he had to leave. And so it was that the 5'0" drifter with the penetrating stare and gift of the gab wandered into the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco with $35 in his pocket and no plans except for a desire to make it big in the music business. Charlie moved into an apartment in Berkeley and made money by panhandling. Before long, he had gotten to know a 23-year-old assistant librarian at UC Berkeley named Mary Brunner. He quickly won her over and moved into her apartment. Brunner came under Charlie's spell, and he convinced her to widen out the home. Within a few months, there were 18 young women living with them. Charlie introduced Mary and the other girls to drugs, and before long, Mary had quit her job and become a devoted follower of Manson. The family was beginning to take shape. With his female entourage and his guitar, Charlie merged perfectly into the hippie culture that was then in full bloom in San Francisco. He refined his role as a spiritual master, a guru, and a prophet. He used mind control techniques to get girls to do whatever he wanted. Most of the girls he gathered around him came from troubled backgrounds and suffered from insecurities that left them directly open to Charlie's manipulations. As well as breaking down their inhibitions with mind control techniques, he used LSD and amphetamines to control his ever-expanding harem. After about 9 months living in and around San Francisco, Charlie began to despair of the place. It had, he asserted, become too overrun with African Americans, and crime was rampant. Of course, their family were doing their best to add to those crime statistics. They stole credit cards and used counterfeit money to get what they needed. They also stole a big yellow bus and painted it black. Charlie and his followers took to traveling by bus down the California coastline as far as Mexico and Texas, partying and committing more crimes. After 18 months of extended travel, they finally settled in Topanga Canyon near Los Angeles in a 2-story house. It was here that Charlie began gathering some male members to the family. The first was a teenager named Bobby Beausoleil, who turned up one night for a party and then stayed on as Charlie's right-hand man. Bobby had been staying with his music teacher, Gary Hinman, not far from the Manson home. Bobby recruited an 18-year-old named Leslie Van Houten to the family in June of 1968. Around that time, Charlie and some of the girls traveled to Los Angeles, where they met up with a record executive at Universal Studios. Former jail friend Phil Kaufman had arranged the meeting. This was Charlie's entry into the rich, jet-set crowd, and he turned on all of his charm to make a good impression. Soon the family were rubbing shoulders with the rich and famous at posh parties in the Hollywood Hills. In the late spring of 1968, Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson was driving away from Malibu Beach when he happened to pick up 2 hitchhikers. The girls were part of the Manson family, and they quickly agreed to go back to his Beverly Hills home. The 3 made love that afternoon, and Wilson left for a recording session, promising to return later to take up where they left off. When Wilson returned home in the early hours of the following morning, he was surprised to see that a full-scale party was underway. He was greeted in the driveway by a short man with a scraggly beard who approached him, dropped to his knees, and began kissing his feet. The girls who Dennis had met earlier came running out declaring, "This is the guy we were telling you about. This is Charlie." Inside his home, Wilson found 12 more women, most of them topless, lying around and smoking pot. Manson told him that the girls were all there for Wilson's pleasure. Wilson was impressed with the sway that Charlie held over the women. He welcomes the family with open arms, and his home became the regular venue for Charlie-orchestrated orgies. Wilson called Manson the Wizard and began inviting influential showbiz friends to come and meet him. Dennis also allowed Charlie to use anything he wanted, his Ferrari or Rolls-Royce, and all the food and drink and drugs that he or his groupies wanted. Eventually, Wilson's manager became fed up with the influence and expense that Manson was having on his client, and Charlie and the girls were ordered out of the mansion. Rumors were also spreading of the children of the rich and famous being given drugs and having sex under Charlie's direction. Suddenly, the door to the Hollywood elite lifestyle, it was slammed shut. Charlie's planned for music career was also shut down. This caused a familiar buildup of jealousy, anger, and rage that would inevitably find expression in violence. Manson managed to convince the owner of a former Western movie set, the Spahn Ranch in Chatswood, not far from Topanga Canyon, to allow the family to live in the abandoned property. The family now moved to the ranch, getting by stealing and scavenging. Charlie took to quoting the Bible to family members as they gathered round a bonfire during the evenings. He also interpreted Beatles songs, explaining that the lyrics were directed towards them. He was obsessed with one song, Helter Skelter, telling his followers that the song envisioned an apocalypse brought on by a race war of blacks killing whites. The blacks would win, he said, but would then turn to Manson to lead the new world. For Charlie, however, the revolution was taking too long. He wanted it to happen immediately. He began preparing family members for a series of actions that would precipitate the Black Uprising. The first step would be to release an album of music that would contain subtle messages that would foment the Black Revolution. On May the 8th, 1969, Terry Melcher, a producer who had met Charlie through Dennis Wilson, arrived at Spahn Ranch to listen to Charlie and the girls sing. Melcher made promises but never followed through on them. On the 25th of July, 1969, Charlie ordered Bobby Beausoleil and 2 women to the home of Gary Hinzman, the music teacher who Bobby used to live with. Manson had heard that Hinzman had inherited $20,000, and he wanted it. Hinzman refused to hand over the money. Charlie was called and soon arrived. After screaming at him, Charlie pulled out a sword and cut off his ear. Charlie then left with instructions to get the money or kill the man. After 3 days, Bobby stabbed his former teacher to death. Before leaving, he and the girls wrote the words "Political Piggy" on the wall, along with a panther paw in red to lay the blame on the Black Panther movement.
Bro, you are sick, bro. You are sick, and you led a cult, bro. That's not no family, bro. That's a cult. You feel me? Because, bro, you're controlling them. Whatever you're doing, you're controlling them somehow, some way. You feel me? That's not no family. That's a cult. You know what I mean? So then it's like, bro, you were off. Like, bro, yeah, all y'all were sick in the head. You feel me? But you led a cult, bro. That's a cult. You know what I mean?
Bobby Beausoleil was arrested for murder on August the 6th, 1969, after being caught driving around in Hinman's car. Manson was now ready to get his revenge on Terry Melcher, the record producer who had let him down. On the evening of the 8th of August, he directed followers Tex Watson, Linda Kasabian, Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel to the house where he believed Melcher was living, with instructions to totally destroy everyone in it, making it as gruesome as possible. The house was located at 10050 Cielo Drive, but Melcher didn't live there anymore. It was now occupied by a famous director, Roman Polanski, and his beautiful 8-month pregnant wife, Sharon Tate. That night, Polanski was in Europe on a film project. His wife was entertaining guests at the property: hairdresser Jay Sebring, screenwriter Wojtek Frykowski, and coffee empire heiress Abigail Folger. Arriving at the property around midnight, Watson climbed a telephone pole near the gate and cut the phone line. The car was then backed to the bottom of a hill that led to the house, and the murder team walked up to find the victims. Watson thought the gate might be electrified, so he and the girls climbed a brushy embankment to get onto the grounds. Just then, car headlights came up from further up on the property. Ordering the women to lie down in the bushes, Watson approached the vehicle and leveled his .22 caliber rifle at the driver. That was 18-year-old Stephen Parent.
Wow.
Watson first slashed him with a knife and then shot him 4 times in the chest. Watson then ordered Linda Kasabian to keep watch down by the gate. He and the other 2 women made their way into the house. The occupants were quickly gathered together in the lounge. When asked by Frykowski who they were, Watson replied, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work." Watson then began to tie the heavily pregnant Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring together by their necks with rope he'd brought and slung over a beam. When Sebring protested over the rough handling of Sharon, Watson shot him and then stabbed him 7 times. Meanwhile, Frykowski began struggling with Susan Atkins, who repeatedly stabbed him in the legs and torso. Still, Frykowski managed to get to the front door. Seeing this, Watson rushed up.
Bro, y'all are bro, y'all are so, man, bro. Y'all are so scandalous for doing this to these innocent people, bro. And it's just like, it's crazy how this dude had y'all under control. Like, that's crazy how this dude led a cult and had them all under control, and they literally listened to everything. Like, bro, this is man, that's sick, bro.
After him meeting up with him on the porch and smashing his head with a gun butt before shooting him twice. Abigail Folger had managed to escape out onto the yard. She was chased by Patricia Krenwinkel, who tackled her and then stabbed her to death. The only remaining victim was now Sharon Tate. As she lay on the lounge room floor with a rope around her neck, she begged to be able to live long enough to have her child, but her pleas were ignored, and either Watkins or Atkins stabbed her repeatedly, including in the abdomen, until both she and her unborn baby were dead.
Wow.
Remembering Manson's instructions to leave a sign on the walls, Atkins wrote the word pig with Tate's blood. The very next day, the family struck again. This time, the victims were Leno and Rosemarie LaBlanca. Unhappy with the messiness of the previous night's killings, this time Charlie went with the group to show them how it was done. Different accounts have been given about the exact happenings that night, but we do know that Manson was in the house and that he orchestrated the tying up of the couple. He then left with the orders that the couple be killed. Before leaving, the words war, rise, death to pigs, and helter-skelter were written with the blood of the victims on the walls and the refrigerator door. The murders caused a huge panic through Hollywood. The pressure was now on to solve the heinous crimes. The police got nowhere until they finally linked the Hinman murder to the Tate LaBlanca killings. They knew that Bobby Beausoleil had lived with a group of hippies at Spahn Ranch, so they decided to pay the ranch a visit. Bobby's girlfriend had told police that Charlie Manson, the hippie guru, had ordered the killing of Hinman. Still, there was no evidence linking the group to the later murders. Then in October, 24 Manson family members, including Charlie, were arrested on charges of arson and grand theft. Susan Atkins was also taken into custody, and it was she who first began to spill the beans. She bragged to a cellmate about killing Sharon Tate, giving a detailed account and implicating Charlie as the mastermind. About the same time, police interviewed a member of the Straight Satan's motorcycle gang who was a Manson acquaintance. He told them that Manson had recently been bragging about knocking off 5 people. The first piece of physical evidence was the fingerprint of Patricia Renwinkle that was found on Sharon Tate's bedroom door. When other pieces of physical evidence were recovered, the police were ready to send the case to court. Manson and the 4 people who had committed the Tate-LaBianca murders were found guilty and sentenced to death. These penalties, however, they would never be imposed. In 1972, the California Supreme Court declared the state's death penalty law unconstitutional. Manson's death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. Charles Manson died on November the 19th, 2017 of cardiac arrest, having spent nearly 50 years behind bars for his orchestrating of the crimes that shook the world in 1969. He was 83 years of age. So I really hope you enjoyed that video.
And I'm gonna end it right there, Slime, bro. Like I said, bro, he was a sick human being, bro. You let a cult, bro, and then it's like, bro, you made them do, bro, that's wild, bro. Y'all let me know, but I'm glad, bro, you're not in this world, bro, because, bro, you got what you deserve, bro. You know what I mean? But, man, y'all let me know how y'all felt about this in the comment section. Like I said, man, if y'all new, make sure to check out my playlist of all the Forensic File murder reactions, well, the murder cases reactions that I've done. All that is in the playlist, you feel me? And make sure y'all check out my music reactions too, the story times, everything, you feel me? And I love y'all. Y'all stay safe, and I'm gonna holler at y'all next time. Already.